Hello, collective. I just want to share something with you. I was having a conversation earlier with this lady who is struggling to be more open to receive, struggling to be in her soft girl era. And I wanted to express to her how I know it's difficult. However, we're having to change things about, what we do in order to bring like a better result, right? And I'm going to share with you what I shared with her. So I had my son in 2020. And at the time, I was working like a really good job. I worked for a group home, I was in behavioral health. And when my son was born, I went on maternity leave. My son's father also went to jail shortly after that. And my mom passed away two months before I had my son. So the support, I did not have it. Went through postpartum. I struggled a little bit. And um, I was grateful for how everything played out because for 4 years, I didn't work a job. I lived in a house. I worked from home. I did readings. I did Reiki for people. I, tapped into my creativity. I started making pendulums, started making bracelets. That's when I started making the jewelry. I started, um, that's when I made my first batch of my third eye lavender oils. I did so much for me to be able to create independence for myself to the point that I was able to create a certain kind of stability for me and my son, and I'm not going to lie, some months were hard, but some months were really really good, and that's kind of like, the trial and error, like when you are coming into starting your business for the first time, or like I wasn't on the books, I wasn't registered with the state, I was just creating something for myself to be able to make money at home to support me and my son. And within them 4 years, I did really good. And now, 6 years later, I'm still continuing to create something for myself. And now that I'm getting away from the tarot and moving into the somatic coaching and the grief coaching, it's taking me to another level of being able to receive. So I was explaining to her how important it is to lean into trust and lean into faith and understanding that dark spaces can be difficult, right? And even in times where we're used to having expectations, control of outcomes, we're chasing things instead of really attracting. When you're giving yourself the opportunity to be soft with yourself, to be gentle with yourself, even the rest. And in my journey, the 4 years after I had my son was pivotal was pivotal for me in a sense because I worked hard my whole life, never had nothing to show for it. Multiple jobs. I went to college. I worked 3 jobs. You know what I mean? Always had 2 jobs. I was always, when I was vegan, I used to sell plates from home. I used to do menus. I always had a full time job and I always had like a side hustle where I did something on the side. So for my whole life, I always hustled. I always chased. I always did overtime. I always hustled and bustled and I crashed out, So when I had my son, that was the opportunity for me to finally rest and to take care of me. And for us as women, sometimes we need to give ourselves the grace to be able to do that, to be able to have the opportunity to calm our nervous system down, regulate, and be open to us being able to attract what is meant for us. All those years that I worked and chased money and never reached that amount that I had set my intention on, right? I never reached it because I was too busy making money for someone else while I was struggling paycheck to paycheck, right? After I had my son, I was able to put myself in a space where I was more in my feminine aspect of myself than my masculine, right? When I hustled and bustled, I was hyper masculine, you know? After I had my son, I was able to be in my feminine space, in my feminine aspect of myself, and I created so many opportunities for myself. I met a lot of people, and even the people that come to me that get readings, I don't even look at them as clients. Like that's soul tribe, soulmates. Those people became friends to me, you know? And I've been doing tarot readings since 2019, 2020. So, in between all of that time, I still have people that come to me. They still support me. They buy my products, they buy my jewelry. When I have events, they pay for them. You know, when I have my promos, my specials, they support that. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. And that's what I was trying to explain to the lady I was having a conversation with was, you know, find something that brings you joy. Find something you're passionate at, you know. Find something that comes naturally to you so you're not chasing it and allowing yourself to attract more opportunities and more abundance. And then it's putting you in a space where you're understanding in like moving into a space where you're learning what you're capable of, you know, being a single mom and not working a job for 4 years and being independent enough to take care of us. I really put myself out of my comfort zone and really realized like, wow, there's so much that I can do. And then when you really think about it, every skill set you have or every talent you have is a different stream of income. You know, you can be, you know, good in four different things. That's four different streams of income, you know? And so for the collective in these new spaces, as we're like trying to create consistency and do something new and, you know, bring a different result out of it, allow yourself to think about what you can do to create independence for yourself, you know? And I know for some of you it's hard and you don't want to let go of the job, but the 9 to 5 really keeps you stuck in that 3D or stuck in that small space where you can't expand, you can't grow because you are obligated to a schedule. You're obligated to, you know, being on call or having to work overtime, or if you're a manager or anything like that, when people call off, you're obligated for that, you know? And I was a manager at one point too, so I used to work 100 plus hours a week, you know, when I was manager in retail. So I get it. But there has to come, like, you have to allow yourself to come to a point where you are willing to step away from it and just search for your like your calling, or search for what it is that you like to do. If you have a hobby, allow yourself to create an extra stream of income from that. You know, don't be afraid, especially in these new spaces. We're really learning how to become the person that, you know, we were always meant to be. We're meant to, you know, God gave us all these gifts and talents and skills, and that's really helping create abundance for us, you know? And that's what I was trying to tell her. Like, you know, it can be hard and fearful, especially when you're used to only depending on a paycheck. But I think it's even harder knowing that you have to depend on yourself to create some type of stability. And in the end, that gives you more confidence and more courage for you to expand and grow and elevate and do something different over time. So, for those of you that are struggling with releasing the need for expectation and releasing the chasing mentality, think of, you know, how much more you can attract for yourself by resting and not doing anything. And you having the mental clarity that spirit is going to communicate with you on how to navigate those spaces and how you can create opportunities for yourself. So I hope this helps. Bye.